Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import use state from React. And this state hook, again, there's a bunch of ways to manage state here, but the way we're going to do this, and if this isn't your steez, I totally understand. There's a bunch of ways to do this. We could create a variable for each input. We could say const song name, set song name equals use state, and then store the input value here for that song name. And let's actually just do that first so we can see how to create a controlled component. And so then I'm going to come in here, I'm going to set the input value to my state value, song name, like this. And what that does is we are now controlling this input. So its value no longer changes as the user types into it. It's now set to whatever this variable is, and the only way it can change is if we call the set song name handler. And you can see that because if you go into your application, did I mess something up here? Maybe not. If I go into my application and I start typing, nothing happens. Is that still there? Oh yeah, oh cool, it's telling us, hey, by the way, you provided a value prop to a form field without an onChange handler. And that is because we provided this value here to this song name, but we didn't tell it what to do whenever the value changes. And so this renders a read-only field. And it's so cool that React just tells you exactly what's up here. It says otherwise set either onChange or read-only. We don't want this to be read-only, so the logical conclusion is we need to set an onChange handler. And so we need to say, hey, onChange, I want you to take the onChange event, and I want you to do something with it. And we can just say set song name event.target.value. Now what this is saying is this event, this onChange event, it has a target where the onChange event happened, and that is this actual input element itself right here. And that target has a value that changed. And whatever that new value is, I want you to set the song name, call the set song name update handler with that new value and update the song name here. And so if we do that, we now can type in here it changes, and if we go to our React DevTools, we will see that it is now controlling the state of that input. And so that's really nice, because we now have access to that value. It works just like a normal input would. You couldn't tell the difference, but we have a variable that is storing that value as it updates using the same mechanism that we use to update state in all other settings. And so this is really nice. And so again, we could come in here and we could do this for each of these inputs, and that's one way to do it. There's another way that is sometimes also pretty useful, and so I'm going to show you that here just so that you've seen all the ways to handle state updates. We can also just say const form set form is equal to use state, and we're going to pass it an object with the names of each of our inputs. Song name, and movie title, and duration, like this. Now the reason why we're doing this is because we could declare 3 different state updaters here, onChange handlers here, and that's totally fine. But to be more, let's call it concise, we're just going to declare one onState handler here. We're going to say const handle on input change, or you could just call it handle on change, whatever you want. And that should take the event, and then it should call this set form updater. Now the thing about this is interesting, is you can't just call set form and update that whole object because it's an object with properties for each of these values. And by the way, this can't be song name anymore, it has to be form.songname. And this will no longer work because this handler doesn't work anymore. So we're just going to pass this here instead. Event.handle on input change event, like this. And then we can say set form, and we're going to take whatever the form already is, form, and then we're going to say song name, and we're going to say event.target.value. And this should work exactly the same. Let's see it in action here. Cool, that works the same. Nothing's changed at the moment. However, right now, this onChange handler only updates the form.songname. And we want it to be used for each of these inputs. So if we were to come in here and we were to do the same thing, and we were to add a value equals form.movie title, and let's just call this same function here. And by the way, when we do this event and then just pass it straight to handle on input change, we can just pass the function itself, and that is the exact same thing. So that's actually probably a lot simpler and easier to read. Cool. And let's do the same thing here for the duration input. Now, the biggest problem with this is that if we were to run this and we update this here and I start typing here, it only updates the song name. You notice that? And it only updates because right now we're only updating this object. We're taking, hey, whatever the form already is, I want you to spread all of these values over it. So it spreads this one, and this one inside this new object. But then the new event.target.value is now the value of that song name. However, we want it to make this dynamic. And we can do that because we've given each of these inputs a name. So we can just say event.target.name is, I want it to change to event.target.value. And so what that'll do is that this event handler, this onChange handler, every time this changes, it'll trigger an event. That event has a target, which is the input that's triggering the event. Each of those inputs has a name, which is song name, movie title, duration, and they also have a value that is changing. And so the name is stored in event.target.name, and the value is stored in event.target.value. And so what we're doing is we're setting the form, hey, I want everything else in the form to stay the same. I want you to spread all the old values in the form into this new object. And if you haven't seen this syntax before, by the way, what this does is it does this. Const obj equals A2, B3, const new obj equals obj C4. And so if we do this, if we spread this object over, this new object will now have A2, B3, and C4. And if we were to override one of them with like B5, the new object will look like this. A2, B5, C4. So this is what the new object looks like because it spread out all the old attributes of this object into this new object. This is what this ... this spread operator does in JavaScript. And then it updated C with a value of 4. And then it updated the new object with a value of 5 for B, but B already exists, so it just overwrites the old value. And we're doing the exact same thing here. We're taking this old values of the form, we're spreading them all out, and then whatever the new value for the name of the input that's changing, we update the object with that value. And so if we do this here, we now have a form that is fully customizable. We can update it, and we have all of those values in state here. Song name, movie title, and duration. And we can use those values to then update and save and add a new track to our songs list. So we'll do that last. Since this video went a little long, we're basically there. We have one more thing to do, and then we'll wrap it up for the time being.